As a priestess, initiate, and elder in at least a few traditions, I'm wondering if you could share about the balance between this intuitive, direct knowing, spontaneous, instinctual aspect of our beings, and also upholding certain traditions, upholding certain forms, and are there guidelines for you as a ceremonial leader that help you to strike that balance between spontaneity and tradition?
Right. Well, see, this is the interesting trick about it. I had a conversation with a young woman one time who told me that she couldn't possibly learn anything from studying anybody's tradition that had ever existed because she was so unique that the only thing she could draw upon was her own imagination. Now, I have two problems with that. Item number one, I think here's somebody who's on the verge of a psychotic break because she sees herself sitting on the planet all by herself, unrelated to anybody else. If we physicalize that, that's a lonely, disconnected somebody. Okay, that's the shadow side of it. The other side of it is what do you think your imagination is composed of? What's in there and where did it come from? Okay. What happens is when you study a number of traditions and you understand the universal principles behind that, your consciousness is filled with the kind of information where you automatically can understand where the boundaries are and deal with them. I always tell people there is a difference between inspiration and whim. Whim is just, I'll just do whatever I feel like, right? Inspiration asks the question, what is needed in this moment and how can I achieve it? When you know the universals and you know the primary reason for what you're doing, there's a way to thread things together. In Jambalaya, I think in chapter 9, I gave an example of a rainbow ritual. So everybody knows it is a universal principle that if you're going to do a ritual, you need to create sacred space. Everybody does that, okay? So we can choose to create sacred space Native American way or African way, but we got to create sacred space. We know that we need an altar. An altar is a place where it can be very eclectic as long as we're clear that northeast, southwest, center, up, and down are going to be addressed. You know what I'm saying? The integrity of the ritual is still there. Then you can get into honoring differences, which Starhawk and I used to go through this where, okay, I got you. Where for her, in her tradition, you put salt on the altar. In mine, you don't give salt to the ancestors. We solved that. When I was at her ritual, I put a bowl of salt on the altar. When she's at mine, she don't. You see what I'm saying? We respect each other's boundaries. What is difficult in this day and time is that we now have so much information available, not always from reliable sources. Now I'm talking about Wikipedia and other places like that, where anybody can go on and upload anything that they think, any whim that they have about something spiritual, and then somebody else can pick up that misinformation and think that they have the right thing and incorporate it askew, you know. Because in the past priesthoods have been oppressive to people, there is a tendency to either just make something up. I'm about to write an article about this. Oh, I'm a priestess, and not invest in or respect necessarily the people who have done something over and over and over for years and have had a lot of experience with it. So to the well-intentioned person who is practicing and wants to honor Orisha, for example, there's a lot of material that can tell you how to set up an altar for Oshun. You can learn songs and dances and prayers and have what the Brazilians call an encantado relationship. That is, independent but devoted, right? You can do that successfully and know the limitation of that. There's a lot that can be done here. But there is a place where you cannot call yourself an Iyalo Orisha. You can't call yourself an Orisha priest, because that is only so when you've gone through the ritual. You know what I'm saying? You cannot just attend a workshop one weekend or read a couple of books and jump up and call yourself a healer. Because when people do that, the people they service get hurt. You know what I'm saying? And so for the person who's starting out, I say the two most dangerous things is the combination of ignorance and arrogance. If you know that if you are arrogant, you're too arrogant to, you need humility enough to say, I don't know everything. You know what I'm saying? I bump up against what I don't know every day. But if you can, without loss of self, say, I don't know everything, I am teachable, then you can say, my ignorance will be overcome by information. But I've met people who are both ignorant and arrogant about their ignorance, and they usually hurt themselves and somebody else, So that's the thing. Oftentimes, the person who is really humble is the one who will receive the greatest inspiration, because they have no ego investment in it, and Spirit will speak to them very, very clearly. It's circuitous. It really is. It's Damballa like. It's a sidewinder.